mean, this is the way she should start everything in life. See, look, Stacy's got into it. Um, so happy to be starting off our fifth TL Talk with an amazing, amazing panel of incredible friends and partners and colleagues. Um, the mood, as we got from the music, is energetic, it's positive, it's exciting. For me, this is my favorite moment in this whole madness that we're living, is uniting with friends and partners and being able to spread some good energy. And we've had already over 10,000 people joining our TL Talks. So I thank you very much. If you're a hotel owner, a travel agent, an IC, if you are working with the DMC or a tour operator, if you're in media, the journalists that have been helping us and sending us incredible questions and support, if you're an avid traveler who can't wait to get back on a plane like all of us. So thank you so much for joining us. It's a huge pleasure to be here. For those that do not know me, my name is Tina Lira. I am the founder and owner of TL Portfolio. We're a representation and communication agency throughout North and South America. I have an incredible team of 17 women who also are part of TL and will continue to be as long as we exist. But I think the objective here today has nothing to do with any commercial sense. It's not about TL, it's about coming together to help to communicate a message of optimism. It's to share initiatives, to inspire, to motivate. So it's, I'll put aside all of my commercial hat and just, the idea is to invite friends, people we respect, people that are leaders in the market that can share a little bit about, what their life is like going through all this new reality, and telling us a little bit about, how they've transformed and what's going on in their reality. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our panel. I'm going to start with Stacy Fischer. Stacy is president of Fischer Travel. She is the daughter of a very important dear friend, Bill Fischer. She devoted her career to developing Fischer Travel, which, as everybody in the hotel industry knows, is a benchmark for an agency that deals with the highest net worth individuals in New York and worldwide. So Stacy, it's an amazing pleasure to have you here. Stacy went ahead and she expanded her portfolio of offerings with Fish and Rosenthal Consulting, where she helps developer, hotel owners with advice, support in the opening and during the hotel operation. So Stacy, thank you so much. I need to share a personal story. I have known Stacy for 20 years. We had our very memorable lunch in Turks and Caicos, but I will never forget the time Bill Fischer was coming to Turks and Caicos for the opening of a property when I was at Grace Bay Club, and they didn't get their occupancy permit. And it was December, high season in Caribbean. Bill calls me and he says, "Darling, I'm coming to Turks." And I said, "Fantastic," because I knew he was coming to the opening. They said, "But they don't have a room for me because they didn't get the occupancy. Can you put me up?" And I remember thinking, oh my God, we're 100% and Bill. And I said, "Sure, when?" He says, "I'm arriving in 20 minutes. And the one person you can't say no to is arriving at our doorstep." And it was one of those panic moments. And the only thing we could think about was I moved out of my house. We sent all of housekeeping into my house. We put amenities. We had, room service menus. We put the chairs out in the beach. We made it, and we picked them up and we took them to one of our villas. And, as if it was the most normal thing. And we had a driver there. And in true Bill fashion, he would call us at the hotel and say, he called us and said, "The water mattress burst. There's water everywhere," and everybody's scrambling. And then they came to me and I said, "There is no water mattress. We don't have a water mattress." So if anybody knows Bill, this is typical him. So please send him our love. He's fantastic. And so are you. So thanks, Stacy.
He's watching, but thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Equally as honored to have Daniela Falcão. Daniela is the CEO of Global Condé Nast. She is without doubt the most important and powerful woman in media in Brazil. She oversees all of Condé Nast media in Brazil, which includes Vogue, Casa Vogue, GQ, and Glamour. And she has also been cited as one of 500 most important women in fashion. So Dani, an amazing honor to have you here. You are an extension of our industry. Of course, you're the mecca of media, but also an avid traveler. And I know you're a fan of both brands that are with us here today. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I mean, I think I'm going to learn a lot too, and I hope I can bring from the media perspective an interesting angle to all the nice questions the audience have sent during the week.
Thank you so much. Neil Jacobs, words can't express how happy we are to have you here. Neil Jacobs is the CEO of Six Senses, which is an icon in the luxury hotel industry. Prior to joining Six Senses, he was with Starwood for 5 years as president, and he was responsible for the development of 2 iconic brands, Baccarat and One Hotels, where we have many friends of ours there. And before that, he was with Four Seasons for 14 years as Senior Vice President of Operations Asia. I am very happy to say that we were neighbors while I lived in Singapore and Neil was in Singapore. I was at the Four Seasons Regent, he was at the Four Seasons, and I had as general manager Ricardo Azevedo, who's a dear friend of both of ours. So thank you so much, Neil, for agreeing to be on the talk and sharing all your wisdom with us.
Thank you, Tina. Thanks for being here. It's great to be here with all of you. Great people.
Another very special person, Francesco, who's founder and CEO of Aqua Expeditions. I think when you think about creativity, innovation, sustainability, everybody can think about Aqua Expeditions and Francesco's vision that's so incredible. He started Aqua with the vessels in Peru in 2008 with 3 vessels. In 2014, there was an expansion onto Aqua Mekong in Cambodia and Vietnam. And then last year in 2019 with Aqua Blue, which is the Grand Dame of all vessels, the first ocean-going explorer yacht in Indonesia. So it's an immense pleasure to have you here. I'm very happy to call you my friend, and I look up to your vision and look forward to you sharing all your wisdom with us.
Thank you, Tina. Thanks. Hi, everybody from Singapore, and excited to just get people, reminding people of the passion of what got us into this industry and looking forward.
Exactly. So and that's where I want to start off. I think there's been tremendous talk about the new normal, the new reality, the new everything that we're dealing with. And one component that I think is very important for us to remember is about the new fun, right? You can't think about crises and just this madness that we're living without having entertainment and comedy along the way. And I'd like to start just by asking you in a very openly way, with as if friends at home, being able to share some story of when was the last time you cracked up, you let laughter out. And even during these moments of challenges, I think we all find ourselves kind of living very weird situations. So maybe Francesco, I'll start with you. If you have a little story you want to share with us.
Let's see. I like to be the butt of jokes. So in this case, as I'm a guy of routine, I like my routine. And obviously more than ever these days, we need our routine to keep our sanity as we're all in some sort of quasi lockdown and hopefully for not much of a longer period. But my days begin with my early routine of getting some work done. And then I work out. I have a beautiful deck and a terrace out here. And whilst we couldn't do much conservation effort these last few months because of our operations being stopped, obviously, I found myself working out on the terrace the other day and my kids cracking up at me because I realized that the Singapore government had instructed some of the local workers here to come and trim all my trees on my street. And I started realizing how upset I was getting while I was doing my workout routine. And I started talking to them, indicating the guy was up on a crane. He was clipping massive amounts of big bushes on these beautiful trees that I have on my street here, and clipping everything and removing some of that beautiful nature that I've been used to looking out of my tree, out of my terrace. And my kids were cracking up because I was pointing to the guys like, no, not that one, not that one. And that was my little attempt at conservation these days. And I've got a bunch of videos that they've recorded it. And so I was the butt of the joke, but enjoyed it. No, but yeah, some
please feel free to share. I'll help you communicate those videos through our social media. I'm sure everybody will enjoy it.
That's what I'm afraid
Stacy,
of.
Yeah. Tell us what you have your dad around. So
yeah, exactly. So life has been, my whole life has been, humor, and it's been a constant with my father, and my husband, Richard, has a great sense of humor. And on Wednesday night, we hosted a Zoom call with our friends that we celebrate New Year's with for the last 25 years. So there were 6 couples of us from all around the country on this call, and we were dressed differently, we were drinking differently, and we were, you know, because we're so close, we're able to make fun of each other. And the topic came up, you know, everybody's talking about the new this, the new that. Well, it was the new hygiene protocol. And actually, it was quite frightening to hear about some people saying, well, I only shower twice a week. So we're so close that now that like that has continued on and on. So we had a lot of fun, and we all needed it. We were on for about an hour and a half, and it's all about love and connection.
Yeah, I think that's the most important, and letting go.
But Stacy, your dad's jokes are legendary.
And dirty.
But they're cute. I remember, I'll never forget. I remember I was starting in my career, and I was, you know, at one of these very elegant do's that, you know, we always have in travel. We're very fortunate. And I kept thinking, oh my God, I'm going to meet Bill Fischer, the Bill Fischer. He's going to be here. And I was standing there, and they were, you know, handing out champagne, and suddenly there was a waiter next to me with a tray of champagne, and I got the champagne, and he kind of like, and I thought, what's wrong? And suddenly I looked, and it was Bill Fischer. He was carrying the tray, you know, and he, instead of coming in with a grand entrance, he kind of walks around like a drunk waiter. You know, you're thinking, what is it? So funny. So Neil, tell us about your day-to-day.
Oh, my day-to-day. I mean, the funny thing actually did happen today, and you know, as we talked about earlier, I mean, I live next door to the botanical gardens in Singapore, which are really beautiful, and they've been a lifesaver in this period. And you know, like all of us, I'm spending, I don't know, 8, 10, 12 hours a day on the phone all over the world, and I do most of the calls, you know, while I'm in the botanical gardens. And this morning I was on a pretty depressing, intense call with a big deal banker come lender out of London, and you know, I'm talking to him and trying to explain to him why he should not be foreclosing on one of the hotels we're working with, but all he could say to me, he says, what is that noise in the background? And he said, are they roosters? And I'm going, well, yeah, in fact, they are roosters. And
they're all over the place in Singapore.
You know,
we're filled with them.
Talking debt coverage to the sounds of chickens and ducks and everything else. It was kind of amusing.
I don't know what's up with Singapore these days, but we've got roosters all over the place.
They're everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I go jogging as well, and we've got, you know, monitor lizards taking over as well.
Yeah,
just turtles everywhere. So yeah, so the wildlife is back in Singapore as well. You know?
Rewilding for sure.
Yeah.
Danny, tell us about the humor in media.
Oh, I think the girls from Glamour make me laugh a lot during this period of Zoom calls and new ideas, because we are experiencing a lot with new technology, and I'm a total loser next to them. So acknowledging my ignorance from TikTok to dating apps, it's that one Zoom call in my week that I don't cancel, because most of the times we're not facing good news exactly. I mean, I dread my meetings with the commercial teams because unfortunately they don't have anything nice to tell me. And I try to give them the spirits that I bring from. So I'm putting my glamour meeting every week before my weekly meeting with the whole commercial team, because I know I'm going to come with the energy from girls. Basically, it's them making fun of my ignorance. So this makes me laugh a lot. And even though, you know, in Brazil, we're facing bigger challenges than the corona per se, but I still laugh a lot on the Brazilian capability of making fun of difficult moments and fun of ourselves somehow. So I still laugh a lot alone on my Instagram, on my phone, and then sometimes my girlfriend say, "What are you laughing at?" And of course, it's a stupid joke that someone is making, either from what the president has said, or it's amazing and it's endless, the Brazilian capability of making a good lot of bad moments. It's always very critical. I mean, it comes with a political view, but I still laugh a lot alone just watching those jokes. It's needed. You have
Very much so.
newsletters, but you also have this. It's like we're all in therapy together. So I like that a lot too.
No, it's
True.
I think it's all very true, and all part of the game. I think we're all learning, which is important.
And the emotional roller coaster we're all in, you know?
Insane, for sure. So the way this works is we have questions from the media, we have questions from very important partners of ours. And so I'm gonna have the first question for Stacy, and then I welcome anybody that wants to add anything to her comments. Stacy, the first question is from our dear friend, Zachary Rabinor, he's the CEO of Journey Mexico. Can you share with us what is your client's mindset at the moment? How affected is their psyche in terms of willingness to fly and stay in hotels, etc.?
So every client is unique, and some clients are going to hunker down and not travel until they feel more comfortable, and everybody's comfort level is different. But I have to say that we had clients traveling this week, exciting, to Blackberry Farms. And the travel conversation has definitely picked up this week. In the last couple of weeks, the phones are ringing. There's conversations that are resulting into bookings. Our clients are fortunate that they do have the access and means to travel privately. So I think they will be the first ones to get out. And what's on their radar is really private controlled situations. So hotels that have the services, but perhaps have the villas with the private pools, private islands, conversations around yachting, because as I've learned, the crew being contained and then the guests coming on board creates a very controlled environment. And what a beautiful way to experience travel. Private homes with, trusted staff. So, we're now being asked to source chefs for clients in the Hamptons who maybe their staff is burnt out and their chef is burnt out. So we're looking for someone that's going to come in and quarantine for 10 days and then beyond for 6 weeks, but not just any chef, like a Michelin star rated type of chef. So even clients that are staying home, we're facilitating a lot of things for them. We just made a booking this week to take over the Point in the Adirondacks for a family, which is fantastic. They're bringing in their own cleaning crew the day before. They're coming with their own chef that will work alongside the hotel chef. So that's been an uptick in privatizing hotels and takeovers. And also now that summer camps are talking about not opening, the phone has been ringing to say to us, what can we do with our families? Everybody needs a change of scenery at this point. They've been in their beautiful homes for a couple of months. They have multiple homes, but they're looking to be serviced. They're looking for a different opportunity and they're looking for different experiences. So I think travel is definitely starting to show itself, and we're positive about that.
And have you seen international, or is that mostly domestic?
I mean, international still, we're waiting for restrictions and laws. Things keep on changing and evolving as day by day. So we do have a family that is traveling for 5 weeks and was supposed to be running around to many different countries and now looking to spend a month at Amanzoe. So hopefully in July, they were supposed to travel mid-June. We pushed it to the month of July. So we have clients that are looking to go to Germany. They feel like they've handled hygiene and things very well there. But, every day we're hearing about what people need to do. They're willing to take tests to go in, 72 hours prior. They're willing to do anything, but they just have to be well received.
For sure. Dani, how do you feel the psyche of your readers have changed in the sense of consumer luxury good consumption and so forth? Have you noticed already a change?
I think that people are very cautious still from our readers in Brazil, because we're still in the high, in the top of the pandemic rate. So we are not there yet as Stacy's client. But one of the posts that Vogue did, it was a regram from somewhere else. This was one of that we had the higher engagement, and it was a post that said, once this is over, I am doing a reverse quarantine and I'm not coming home for a month straight. And the engagement on that post, and how much people were saying, well, I'm going to restaurants that have outside areas and I'm never leaving there, or my office is gonna be. I think that even if we are still in Brazil in a very delicate situation, we are still in social isolation and a lack of perspective of how the opening is going to be here. So I think the audience in general is still very cautious, but you see this humor or this willingness, or once this is over, of course, respecting all the sanitary measures and everything, but especially in gatherings and consumption, it's going to be a big question mark, because you have all the economic impact and towards fashion. Of course, we are worried because it's not something there is an essential need, but certainly people would like to gather and celebrate. And I think restaurants with verandas are going to be so happy when social isolation is over. And from that point of view, I think that people are willing more and more when this to come, let's socialize, respecting all the rules and all the everything that the government said we have to do.
Yeah, and I think just going back to a previous TL talk that we had Natalie Klein, who I'm also a big fan of, and she said something that's very true between fashion and travel. And she says something that unites us both is that they're both a form of escapism of reality. And I think after this, as you were saying, Daniela, once everything opens up, people want to escape this house arrest kind of situation. And so fashion, as well as travel, is a way to escape. Right? You get dressed up beautifully and you're suddenly living a different reality, even if you can't get on a plane, right?
Yeah, we always look to, that new look of Christian Dior was the big skirt, and the totally reinvented fashion. This was right after Second World War, but and polyester and nylon with all the colors, because people after this period, they just want maximalism comes skyrocketing, because people, they need to have this joy and escapism. So I think and you value creation. You I don't know if you have following youngsters, especially, they're doing those Zoom parties in which they really got dressed up, even in their pajamas or the most crazy makeup. So when you look at that point, you see creativity, the need to escape and to dream, beauty in general. This always make people happy, even if they are homes. So when I enter on those Zoom parties with younger people, and they are totally with makeup on, that's also something that make me laugh a lot.
Yeah,
for
sure.
What I find is, obviously our guests are obviously all willing and wanting to just get the right answers from all of us. If we're the experts on the ground and we can't get exact clarity on what our situation is as far as what is the arrival protocol for international flights, and when they mention quarantine, all these countries, what does that mean? Self-imposed home quarantine, so I think, once we can establish that clarity as experts on the ground to our guests, and because we do get calls, I mean, the ability for our guests to postpone their final decision if they're going to travel in July, August is incredible, because they're willing to leave it right up to the last minute, hopeful that something's going to change and give them that clarity. So we've got departures of the Aqua Blue. Luckily, my latest Explorer yacht is right here in Singapore. She was actually scheduled to be in maintenance period during the month of March and April. So luckily she was here, and now she's due to get back to Bali. She leaves June 21st, headed to Bali, arrives in Bali. She's allowed into Bali as of June 6th because she's Indonesian flagged. And then as of June 8th, she's allowed into Bali. July 6th, we're able to operate. We've been given clearance that we're able to operate. The question is, I don't think any of our properties, neither Neil's or ours, we're all going to be ready forward to receive our guests when that time comes. The issue now relies on those powers that be regarding aligning airlines, airports, transit. So Singapore's announced now that as of June 2nd, transit passengers are able to transit through, and all these, so the signs are there. Obviously, I believe that whilst Brazil might be still weathering the storm to a certain degree, that time will pass as well. Italy, obviously, where all my family is based, is out of it. My dad finally got a haircut after 8 weeks. He's 87, lives at home alone in Rome. And so, so we're seeing that obviously that progress happening, but we just have to provide those clear answers to our guests, and they're just going to be as resilient as ever to just get right back in there. I've got a family booked out of London on Cathay Pacific, landing in Bali on August 2nd. I've got another family out of LA booked to go Cathay Pacific. Right now, if you get onto KLM and you do a KLM Amsterdam Lima, as of July 1st, you can fly. So flights are able to land, but then the missing connection as far as what happens when you land in Lima, then that's the kind of the gray area. They're doing a phased approach, and what happens if that phase 1, phase 2 happens, then phase 3 allows international guests with no quarantine and so forth. So we're getting there. We've been patient, but our guests have been incredibly resilient and waiting to just push the envelope as much as possible. And that's incredible, no?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
There's so much pent up demand. I mean, even, we reopened a property or 2 properties in Vietnam about 2 weeks ago, and still Vietnam is closed, right? So the business is Vietnamese and expatriates living in Vietnam, but we'll finish the month of May at 90% occupancy.
Wow! Because
the demand is so strong, and people just want, as Stacy and Francesco was saying, they just want to be out. They want to be somewhere else, and they don't seem worried. I mean, to the point that people would arrive on one of our islands and they'd tear their mask off and jump into the ocean, and we were the ones that had to say, you need to calm down and take it a bit easy, because there are some rules here. There are some rules.
But Vietnam managed, every country managed to the best of their ability. And everything, I think my hat's off to every nation around the world that did it to the best of their ability, some more than others. But Vietnam, where we have one of our new river cruisers being built, we were shut down. The yard was shut down for 2 weeks. But what they did, which is a military yard, they brought in all their contractors, put them in government housing inside the yard, and the ship was being finished. And now we're going to be, 28 days delayed, which given the circumstances, manageable.
It's amazing.
So all these things, the willingness and desire of people to continue plugging away at everything they should be doing or want to be doing is there.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Neil, I have to hit the subject that is so dear to the essence of Six Senses. And I would love to know, considering Six Senses has led the movement as it pertains to sustainability, aiming to become plastic free by 2022, what advice could you give the other hoteliers or travel agency owners or professionals who have now become more aware of the growing desire by luxury consumers to invest into sustainable and socially responsible outfits?
Oh, how many hours do you have? I have plenty of advice around sustainability. It's such an interesting topic, and certainly in the last few years, the train has left the station. But when it comes to sustainable practice, but still, it's interesting to experience, certain hotels or certain suppliers who kind of poo-poo it and go, yeah, well, maybe our guests don't really care that much about it, and developers who continue to tell us, well, it's too expensive. It costs another 10 or 15% to build a hotel the way you want to build it, and we get pretty angry about stuff like that, and I think firstly, we think our customers, and maybe that's why they come to us, but the demand is very much there. People want to know that there are practices that go on around the hotel, whether it's with regard to the operation or community outreach or how a property was built that today, more than even 5 years ago, are becoming really, really important. All employees, particularly the younger employees in many hotels these days, are asking us before they even want to come and work for a hotel, what is your green policy? What are you doing? Because younger people basically care more about it. Six Senses, which is 25 years old, has had a sustainability conversation going on right from the beginning. So I mean, the key to really executing on anything valuable is really comes down to the culture of the organization and the intention of the people that are running that organization. If they care, if they truly care, then you will have a business that practices sustainability. And frankly, any small thing is important. We are religious about it, but we don't get on a soapbox, because anyone that can do anything is a big deal. And the beginning, the last couple of years, everyone talks about no plastic straws. Well, we shouldn't mock that, because everybody should be practicing with no plastic straws. It's really simple. You just don't buy them, or you throw them away, and for a cent or two more, you will have a non-plastic straw, and it makes a huge difference.
And Six Senses has that for years, over 10 years. When did you guys? It's been forever. It's amazing.
Years and years. Yeah. And now the subject of bathroom amenities and all those little plastic bottles that go into bathrooms. I mean, again, we've never ever in our history had those in our guest rooms, but it takes the large hotel groups, and they're finally doing it. And IHG was the first to come out with it. That last year said, within 18 months to 2 years, there wouldn't be a plastic amenity bottle in any bathroom in any IHG hotel. And that's 5,500 hotels. They estimated that they would save 200 million bottles a year. Now, in 5,500 or 6,000, close to 6,000 hotels. So these are things that are not that complicated to do. But again, it has, and they're small things. We could talk about how a hotel is built and materials used and solar and alternative energy and all that other stuff, which is equal, clearly has bigger impact. But the small stuff anyone can do if the intention is there. And that's what I would encourage people. It doesn't, not every move has to be a big move, because it's all important. And I mean, it all counts. I mean, one of the big things, you mentioned our plastic-free 2022 initiative. I mean, that's a corporate initiative that we have right now, which is in addition to what goes on individually in all of the properties. But one element of that, for example, we have all these wonderful chefs in our properties, and the big thing with these guys is they like to cook sous vide, because you maintain flavor and it's nutritious and so on and so forth, and you put it in a little plastic bag and steam it or do whatever it is you do with it. But we said, you can't do that anymore, because that's thousands of plastic bags every month. And the chefs would look at you like, are you crazy? How can we not do this? I go, well, it's very easy. You can't do it, so you're gonna have to find another way. And people come up with other solutions, but unless it's coming from senior management and it trickles down, and you do it for long enough to really create the intention, and by that you shift culture, that's the only way really for it to be lasting. but
Yeah.
it's happening, right? People are demanding it. And if there are two hotels and they're both in great locations and both as beautiful as the other, and one is more sustainable, that's the one that people will choose.
Yeah,
People
and I
will
think
scrutinize it, and they'll be expecting a lot more
Yeah.
transparency and everything. No.
Yeah.
yeah, and I think this is a key moment, because this new reality we're living, it was very much considered a millennial tendency. They were the group that really
Yeah.
cared. And I think right now, after everything we're living, especially as Francesco and you were mentioning, the rewilding of animals coming back and taking over, and you seeing the recovery process, and people start to appreciate it more. I think there's been a movement of other generation groups to join the bandwagon and kind of want to get involved. And I think especially now there's going to be a question for Francesco to talk about pricing. And in my past talks, for those that have been listening already, to the past ones, I tend to say this a lot, but if anybody's looking to look at their pricing module to offer a more competitive pricing, then put a percentage of that towards a socially responsible activity. You don't have to give it directly to the consumer, because I think they will appreciate that. As Neil was saying, if you have two amazing properties and one has a sustainability project or a socially responsible project for the community, I do believe travelers will opt for that property, because you have a feel good intention, right?
Sure.
You have something that makes you feel good.
There's one thing about census that I love, is that you also include the guest. I remember when I was going to take census in the Maldives, there comes a letter and saying, don't bring plastic with you as much as possible. We are going to offer you everything. We have good amenities on, so you don't need to bring your own shampoo. It's a small reminder, but then you make the guest part of the process. It's not only something that you're passive and you're receiving everything in this great hotel. When I got this letter, I really said, why do I care? All those things. And then you feel responsible. Of course, they were not, if you need to bring something, you can, but think twice before. Just bring something that is frozen in the island. So I think when you make the guest part of the process from a reservation, and it's something more engaging, and you really appreciate everything that is being done. So you don't take it for granted.
Yeah, and it gets you thinking.
Yeah, and the key is not to come across as preachy, or too tree hugger, because forgive me, all the tree huggers out there, but it's because it's not about that, because we're not asking people to give up taste in food or style or design or texture of anything. That's not
good
what
wine,
it's about.
good
wine and everything. Sustainability can coexist with all the things that we all like to do without making you feel guilty or anything. People need to feel good about themselves, and someone was saying, Francesco, that people want to be engaged, and you were saying, and see what's happening out in the community and learning something from it. I mean, it's all sustainable practice, and it's not religion, right? It's just about doing the right thing with the right intention, and still having fun and having a good time and having a great experience wherever you may be going.
And it
the power of intention.
And it shouldn't be a separate section on our website. It should be embedded in everything we do. It should be a common expectation today more than ever. It should be just part of our lingo and part of our ethos. No? And I think once you merge the two and you make it part of your DNA, then you've found that right balance. No?
Yeah, and the power of intention is so important.
Yeah, and we just did an intake form with clients, and we did put sustainability, and so surprised to see the demographics of clients saying that that's so important to them. So it's not just the younger generation, it's the older luxury client that's also really conscious and aware of this.
Yeah. No, fantastic. I hope that this actually grows after this whole crisis, that we can have more people have that intention and put it to action. So very important. Francesco, we have a question from you from Daniela Pizzetta. She contributes to a publication called Harper's Bazaar that most of us are familiar with. Do you believe international travel will go back to being a program for the elite?
Goodness, if I had a crystal ball and could tell you everything, we'd be in another topic right now. But let's see, by nature, I believe that we're creatures of habits. So I think, however you look at it, whilst our expectations going forward might change, I think that we're all questioning what flight economics are going to look like in the future. I think that obviously it's going to change to a certain degree, but I think that desire, that willingness to explore this beautiful world that we live in, and we've all decided to make our home in these beautiful parts of the world, be it Vietnam, Indonesia, Peru, I think is always going to, that inquisitive mindset of exploring and getting outside our comfort zones and having those wow moments that inspired me to put my business in Peru and in Vietnam and Indonesia, I think is embedded in us. That desire to explore. I think the audience that we're speaking to today, the guests that we host, are avid explorers by nature, and they're just hungry for that experience to step outside their comfort zone. I think that's very hard to bottle up. I think it's bottled up now probably, but it's just a matter of days, months before that just gets back. Will it trickle back in? Probably. I think it'll take time to get back to its normality. But I think the audiences that we're speaking to and the audiences that are our guests are a certain percentage of demographic that are not the mass tourism destinations. So I think we'll all be affected. We are all affected. But I think it's going to be, they're going to stay true to their cause. Yes, they might change their in immediate interest by staying maybe closer to home to some of them, and some may venture further abroad. But you know, the demand is there. The leads we get, I monitor every lead through our CRM every day. I see, obviously, one thing is shopping around, and one thing's putting money down and making a deposit, and that obviously is what they're waiting for. However, it's there, and they're just waiting for that kind of the ability to put a stake in the ground and say, okay, I can go on holiday. It's not going to be a stressful experience of wearing a mask for the duration of my holiday, because I don't think we can expect that. And if it's going to be a hassle getting on a flight for 24 hours to get somewhere around the world, and just then obviously it's gonna affect it. But as long as those measures are in place to provide that assurance that both our crew is healthy and the boats are sanitized or the hotels are sanitized, and give them that assurance, I think eventually they'll come back, you know, and it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, but I've had the luxury of some inside information. I know you've also seen some very big bookings with people moving towards larger charters. So possibly some of the biggest bookings that Aquas have seen are actually taking place now, with the trend that Stacy was mentioning, that instead of people hopping around, they're actually more comfortable in staying put, which for those receiving them is a good thing. It's a higher price tag, but it's a great booking.
Yeah, but they're not necessarily, you know, they're multi-generational buyouts. They're people that would have rented 2-3 homes and now want to rent a 15 cabin cruiser. So, and they're not necessarily all flying privately. As long as they can get there on commercial flights, they're happy to fly. They're happy to fly and then get on a ship. Obviously, yes, these destinations are size of our expedition vessels, and that's something that we've had to undergo tremendously over the last few months, is change the entire tone of voice. I've had to relook at all our content, all our communication strategy, and our branding strategy, and make sure that whilst our demographic of guests are not mainstream cruisers, actually most of our guests have never been on big ships, and they probably would never go on big ships. But as we're in the small expedition segment, I have to make sure that my tone is empathetic, my tone is relevant, and I've had to undergo all that tonality change as well, and we're in the process of rolling it out. But yes, small expedition vessels of our case are more relevant today than ever, but also the fact that we have to educate our guests that whilst the concern of big ships, which is going on a Panama flagged vessel, which might have a problem landing and having the permit to arrive into Melbourne tomorrow, the concern is not maybe getting on the ship, it's about getting off the ship if something happens. And so I think as long as we can educate and reaffirm that all our vessels are locally flagged, you know, there's Aqua Blue is flagged in Indonesia, only operates in Indonesia. It's never not going to get a permit to call into its home port or get off twice daily excursions like we always do. The Aqua Mekong, Vietnam or Cambodia, the Ari Amazon and the Aqua Neta in Peru. So those are all highlights that we just have to bring to light more than ever today and change that communication strategy, make sure it's brought to light, and then provide that reassurance. So yes, we've seen some incredible demand, and it's just a matter of just getting the flights though, you know, with the beck and call of those airplanes.
Yeah, for sure. Danny, I'm going to ask you a question that was actually it was actually from our internal team, so it's a curiosity of ours, which I think a lot of people are going to empathize with. It's now more evident than ever that generic messaging does not generate empathy. Mass communication is in decline as everything moves towards a more personalized and customized manner. Do you believe that this too will apply to media outlets? And if so, how will media outlets successfully connect with smaller groups of interest for them to feel that customized touch? And if so, is there such a thing as the new communication?
Yeah, I think this is already happening. Everything that the big shift in consumer behavior that we are, or in communication or in traveling, that we are foreseeing for the future, those were not necessarily things that born during the corona pandemic. Those were movements that were already in place, and they were just super accelerated by the situation. So this is true for digitalization or how much media outlets now, their main voice became digital. Of course, they were already going into this direction, but now it's just, it's fast forward 10 times. But I think it's very interesting. People talk a lot about digitalization, but they don't talk so much about this personal angle or this direct conversation. That it's something that it's also very relevant, and it's changing media in many ways. And we have been struggling. When I was in journalism school, it's like you have to be impartial. Only super big names, they can talk in first person. It's like, you're not important, you're not relevant, you're just a reporter, and you have to speak the truth or bring information without putting yourself into the news, unless you are this. So it was very few people who could actually put their own perspective, or in the name of impartiality or objectivity, you just took yourself completely out of the figure. And that was something that we were very hit with, this knowledge, when digital influencers come into the picture, putting themselves into it with their voice, their angle. And then we had to rethink this myth, or it was very impersonal, everything that media were doing. So we were already doing this for survival. So you have to talk more. Everything I learned in journalism school, just forget about it. For the new generations, just put yourself in it. Just be clear, that's my opinion. And not only editorialists can do this. I mean, you can also. What I think that what COVID and social isolation brought is that even when we were everyone is doing lives, right? Every media outlet, and you're seeing the backdrop of your house. I don't know if you have followed, so that there were jokes, which TV commentator has the best bookshelves, or which books do they have? And people were trying to Zoom to figure out what they were reading. So you just figure out that there is this immense need to bond with people who are bringing you the news or who are reporting. And the New York Times just did something that it's amazing. They have a Google Docs that everyone can access and see what the team is doing, what they're reading, what they're cooking. It's not a general what to cook during social isolation or what to read. It's what this specific journalist is reading. What is he cooking? What kind of exercise is he doing? So it's a complete change in the way we used to report. So it's not like you don't matter. It's the opposite. People would only care if you are in there. So if you have an article about 5 ways to exercise during social isolation, or if you have what our team is doing with actual pictures. And that's another component that in many webinars that I have been joining about consumer behavior, it's perfection is not needed anymore when you communicate, and the perfect image. So it's okay to have a backdrop of your home. Even big PepsiCo did a commercial, an ad with Daniela Alves, that is a Brazilian soccer player, from his new potato chips, and it was in his home. He did it, and of course it has more a real touch. It's not perfect. It's low budget. So this imperfection also makes communication more personal. And I don't think we're gonna go back, or we're gonna go back to objectivity. Of course, I think when we have proper cameras, we're all gonna be a bit relieved. But to have some resources, you're not moving, or giving up this. But the personal touch that we have exercised during this period, I don't think we're gonna lose. And I think this is gonna be vital for the survival of media. People need this human connection, and now we are human beings. Who is the living rooms of most people you follow and you watch, and once this is done, you can never go back.
No, and I think it's very well put, and it's very true. And I think the same thing applies to all the brands. And, as we were saying, Francesco was mentioning, people want transparency. They want you, if you have, a green philosophy or a thing, then I want to see it. I want to be part of it. I want to be involved in it. I want to, it's not just a marketing thing. And I think that's a fantastic thing that's coming out of all this. And this is the beauty of going through the process we're going, because at the beginning, the first few months, people are like, I just want to go back to normal. And I think after a few months, you kind of look and think, we can't go back to normal. We need to, get better and move forward and take the best out of what we're living. And I think that's very true.
Everybody in the first month was kind of managing the fallout and getting accustomed to whatever new reality we all had to face with regarding the measures we had to take to make sure that our businesses had a business continuity plan, and we put them in place. But now the kind of no, I wouldn't say all the fun began, but at least we were able to start getting some work done on some really constructive, productive projects that either we had sidelined or put on the shelf, or I'll be honest with you, I was able to negotiate some incredible consulting deals in the last few months that I would have never been able to afford before. And one of them is to really create our assessment of all our conservation and sustainability initiatives. That I had to hire a consultant to. Today I could afford it I could pay it half the price, because we were helping each other out. I wanted always to do it. She was totally unavailable and kind of putting me on the sideline because of her daily rates, but we got to an agreement, and now I'm going to have something that I would probably never have done before. Or I had my 5 top directors kind of work on a 1-page disruptor models and say, come to me with bold initiatives, something that you could start this business over again. Aqua, obviously, by today, whilst it was an entrepreneurial-led initiative of mine, today it's obviously an incredible team globally. And I said, come to me with a 1-pager, bold ideas of how you would disrupt this industry as far as in our sales and marketing. And incredible ideas came to light. And obviously now is the time to consider those, and you have an opportunity now to pull back all those initiatives that you felt were some necessary evils you were committed to. And today it's an easy way out of some of them, and really be bold and innovate in that. And I think that's what you're going to see in a lot of brands,
Yeah, Stacy?
Yeah, we are not on any social media platform. We've never been. And we've always had that really personal connection with our clients. So the minute we stayed at home, March 16th, and closed our office, Bill and I communicated via email to the staff, we're here for you, we hope you're well, followed by happy Passover, happy Easter, not selling, but just genuinely reaching out. And I had clients sending me gifts saying, I'm thinking of you. Or I had a client send me a beautiful bouquet of flowers, happy Mother's Day. So these are the kind of connections that we have because we are relevant, we're in touch, and we're genuinely concerned and want to be there for them. I mean, Fischer Travel is not just a travel company, we are a lifestyle brand. So we always want to be that first point of contact to them. And what we did and I just have to say, my team is amazing. I mean, so creative. We have no independent contractors. So we really work together. And we got together and thought, how can we reach out to our clients and create conversations? Maybe it's not only about travel. So we created a very curated list of virtual experiences to bring to them while they're home. And it could be, we're now working on Michelle Obama doing a Zoom call with a family, Harry Styles to a daughter for a daughter's birthday. We actually facilitated a call for a client with his hero, who is Sandy Koufax, for his 70th birthday. And he was so delighted. This is all he ever wanted to do, was have a phone call with him. We were able to create a magical, with a magician, a magical birthday wish for a 16-year-old, a personalized one. We we're also working on Lin-Manuel. And a lot of these, we're generating revenue for Fisher Travel by facilitating this, but we're also donating to charities. So the client is actually giving back, and the end consumer, whomever we're hiring, they also have their charities, and everyone's in need right now. So it might be a 5-minute call, but the $10,000, $20,000 and up are going to charities. So it's all unique ways about staying in touch, being relevant, and then the dialogue continues. So it's being creative and surprising and delighting them.
No, and it's amazing how you've been able to maintain that the part of your DNA, that you've never been in social media before social media existed. Your website never had any details. I'll never forget that Bill giving me his first business card. And I was so honored. I'm like, I've got Bill's business card. And it said Bill Fischer, Fisher Travel. It doesn't say anything. It was like, so him.
And this week,
But is it
Mario Carbone go out to the Hamptons to surprise a son for his law graduation. You know, they had this big party planned, which all fell through the cracks. So we had him go out and create a Carbone dinner for the family. So everyone can do that. It's just, you know, having the resources and being willing to put yourself out there and connect with the clients.
But I think that's it, right? I mean, we tend to be in the high end of the business, but it's not just about high end. People are going through a lot of things these days. But the key is exactly as you say, is connection, because that's what people are screaming for, to have that human interaction with somebody that cares and is providing an experience, or just a word or a conversation.
I know, but it's hard. How do you show a smile through how do you show a smile through a mask these days? You know.
Well, but I mean,
and put a smile on it.
Yeah, but it's glass half full or half empty, right? I mean,
exactly.
I'm really positive about the future. I think that what we do is we have perhaps a difficult period ahead of us, but what we do is so relevant, and people want it and will come back to it. And as you were saying, Francesco, it gives us an opportunity to rethink through our offer and our products, and test some of the things that we do, and probably a lot of what we do is just fine, but we have this moment in history to say, can we be doing anything better? Can we be stretching in different areas, or doing other things, that when we come out the other end, that we're stronger and more relevant than we were when going into this,
Yeah.
True, and look, and it's 13 years, or in your case, many more than me, but it's 13 years in my case of building relationships to weather these storms together. Because I've had my dark days in the past, and definitely we've all had our dark days. And I launched actually Aqua Expeditions in 2008. What worse time to launch it? But at the time then, we've built relationships over these years that today are the ones that allow us to be remotely communicating with all our clients, and they know that Aqua's going to be there, and we're there for each other. And I think those face-to-face engagement is a must. Obviously, will that change to a certain degree? Okay, we might go to a few less shows in the future, but we need that relationship going forward. And I think commercially, obviously, we've all got needs that our companies need in order to maintain the value proposition that we've guaranteed and built up as a brand. Are we tempted to provide some sort of incentive? Of course. Are you going to see some pricing strategies going forward to get some timed campaigns? I think it's well merited, as long as you keep an even playing field and you maintain the relationships both for trade and all your digital strategies that are in place. But yeah, we'll be launching some campaigns. I think once we're sensitive to the fact that guests can actually book and get on planes and get to the destinations, we'll be launching some campaigns. I think at least to sort of restart, we have a total digital business revival strategy that is going to help us tap into markets that we thought maybe weren't merited, because I've never tried to have any client represent more than 5% of my revenue, because I didn't want to be heavily dependent on one tour operator or one business revenue stream. But today we're going to be tapping into, but there's going to be clusters of business units around Southeast Asia and South America or anything, and some sort of passages of flights and air access to regional air businesses. We're going to be playing around with some digital strategies to see some regional business. Digitally today, you can kind of quickly monitor, and then as soon as you see those leads and those good conversions, then you build up that trade business and the local business in Korea, Japan, and Chile, Argentina, Mexico, that are huge potential. So I think there's some great opportunities there as well. No?
For sure. No, go ahead.
And by the way, Francesco, you said that I've been doing this a lot longer than you. I'm not your grandfather, you know that, right? Maybe a bit longer, not a lot longer.
True. More experience, I agree.
Very, very good point. On that note, actually, I have, Stacy, a question for you from our dear friend Ricardo Acevedo, whose birthday is tomorrow. So there you go. He's
birthday if you're watching.
Kisses for Ricardo for his birthday tomorrow. But he has a very interesting question. Assuming the world travel is open today without any restrictions, who will be the winners and who will be the losers within the travel industry by the end of 2020, Stacy? Hard one.
I think that the winners are going to be the agencies that have the strong relationships with their clients. And like you just said, Francisco, your vendors. I mean, relationship is key to our business. It's one of the reasons why I love our business so much, is because we have that connection. And I think you have to know what you're selling. You have to have confidence in what you're selling. And now in this changing world where every day it's evolving, you have to stay on top of it, because our clients are really savvy and they're reading things and they're in the news. And so we have to really understand, and it's okay to say, I don't know. And I think for a while when this all started, I'm very uncomfortable in that I don't know stage. That's not who I am. It's all about finding out and actioning and making things happen. So I'm now, it's a couple of months in, right? So instead of fighting it anymore, it's okay to say, let me check it out. These things keep on changing. So I think the ones that can communicate and listen to your clients, and that will result in trust. And once you have their trust, you have their loyalty. And that's the game at Fischer Travel. Clients become members and they're putting money down, and it's a relationship, but it's a trust. And we get to really, really know them and really listen to what their needs are. And that's why we're able to connect with them, not only over travel, but how are you doing? A lot of people are with their spouses right now, and divorce rates will go up because they've never spent this much time with each other. And we're on the other side of that phone, being that sounding board of just listening to them vent. Husbands and wives. So be that friend, be that person, and show empathy. And I think when you're genuine and you show that, success will follow. And that's who will be here.
For sure. And Daniela, how does that portray in media? How do you feel about that? Because you also have a very strong trust relationship with your readership. How do you see who would be the winners and losers if everything went back, to borders open today? How do you see that changing your spectrum?
I think that's one thing Stacy said, that it's going to be vital for all of us. It's like, listen to your consumer more and more. So there is a big question mark, not only in media, but in fashion, or what it's relevant, what kind of image they want to see, how they want this to be portrayed. There is no answer. It's not, let's say Vogue, that is the mecca for fashion. It's not Vogue that is going to dictate how all of those issues are supposed to be handled from now on. You have to listen to the audience. And again, of course, there was some hints that we already, sustainability and, you know, being more inclusive. Now there is this whole questioning on perfection. What I mentioned before, you don't need to have the perfect image. That's something new, and we are learning from the consumer how to balance, because fashion is about beauty. Beauty, it's linked to perfection, but now perfection is not so desirable anymore, because we are living in such an imperfect world. So I think that I read the other day, someone was saying, even doing lives and Zoom calls, people are being so tolerant with, you know, the link just expired, or some people are not so tacky savvy and they are making mistakes. That was something, or, you know, being not so perfect. I think that's a big trend, and many others will come if you lose this ability to listen to your consumer. I mean, Stacy have the privilege to talk to your consumers. We talk to 2.5 million people in Instagram, for example. Of course, we cannot have such a direct contact, but something we are reinforcing this in Vogue. We are reinforcing. Try to read as much as possible every comment people make, because that's how you're gonna be relevant, and that's how you're gonna guarantee your future. Because of course you can't, it's not that you're gonna do everything people are suggesting, but listen to them and then try to come with your answer, knowing your DNA to all those needs that people are sending, you know. And so I think that the answer to this is listen to your consumer. And yes, say you don't have to come with a straight answer right now, because things are changing all the time. I even in to my team, we believe in the market will go one way in the beginning of March. Then in April, we change everything. And then we change everything in May again. And then we just say, we don't know. And it's okay in this moment to say we don't know. You work with what you have. So more than ever, if it's not day by day, it's at least week by week. And then we see again, and how we're gonna, I don't know how many print editions we're gonna have until the end of the year. I don't know. It depends on so many things. So we are deciding week by week. I have my printer people crazy because they have this planning, and the planning cannot be screwed. It is. We don't know. So we'll decide week by week, and everyone is living like this. So I think it's okay. You know, listen and don't be so squared, because things are, until the end of the year, we're going to have to wait and see little by little.
Yeah, and we're human, and that's the beautiful thing.
Yeah, but I think the real winners, and whether it's a hotel group or a travel partner or a media title, are those that today have a real narrative. I mean, everyone talks about, you know, personalization, but it particularly, you know, in the hotel business, you know, I don't think it's not enough today just to have, you know, good food, good service, and a comfortable bed. It's about, you have to have a story. You have to have a real takeaway that resonates and is compelling to the customer. You know, in our case, we think it's our platform of sustainability and wellness, which, you know, are our pillars. You know, one of my most favorite hotel groups in the world is JK, you know, which has 4 or 5 little hotels in Italy and France, but you know, their conversation is about great design. It is about intimacy and a certain beauty, and so there's a real narrative, there's a real point of view, and I think if you don't have that today, it's just all becomes so homogenous, and this is the moment, and those are the groups and the businesses that will come out of this. And before I finish this subject, I have to, if you permit me, give a big hug to my friend Ricardo, because hermano te extraño, and I'm coming to see you in Bogota very soon.
I'll join you. Lo extraño mucho también. He's my mentor. But I want you to I'll carry on that with you, Neil. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about this reality. And just one of the nice things that you mentioned is actually going to be the topic of our next TL talk, which is going to be about know your identity to survive tomorrow. And I think it has to do with being human, being transparent, and knowing who you are and what you stand for. And exactly what you said, Six Senses is very clear on their 2 pillars. And JK is a phenomenal brand that's it's very clear on their design and coziness. It's almost like being in a home always. And Francesco's very, you know, so these are iconic brands because of it. And I wanted you to share with us, you know, we lived a reality where the whole world was staying at home. So we were all living the same situation. And Six Senses was very quick at looking at this as an opportunity to, if you can't take your brand, bring your customer to live your brand, and take your brand to the customer with your creation of At Home with Six Senses. And I would love for you to talk about how did you create that? Do you think that's going to carry on post, you know, everything we're living? And then how can you help, and this is where my thing is, how can we help people that are listening to look at what we're living today as an opportunity, not you know, not the end of the road, but as you just created an amazing opportunity out of this situation. And tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I mean, right at the beginning, I mean, you know, we spent probably 3 to 4 weeks shutting everything down, which was the most depressing period, and certainly in my career. That's closing hotel after hotel. And we got to a point where we said we needed to move into another area, and we needed to start being positive again. And within literally about 5 days, we put together At Home with Six Senses, which is an online platform, and it started off as being predominantly showcasing some of our wellness modalities, and we would, you know, immediately doing yoga classes and exercise classes and meditation sessions and so on, and we ended up, and still are, twice a day on Facebook Live and daily on Instagram. But it was very homegrown, and you know, we didn't bring anyone in. It was all our own people, and our yoga master from his living room in Delhi, and it was very raw. You know, the material was very raw, and you know, in the past we kind of want stuff to be a bit more produced and a little more professional in many ways, but we didn't have time, so we just went out with this on an absolute daily basis, and we've been doing it now for 4 or 5 weeks. We've moved out of just doing some of the wellness stuff. We're cooking now. We're doing excursions. We're doing activities. We have our GMs, you know, talk about, you know, things that they care about. We interview our GMs on those channels. Every Sunday night, we're doing an act with the Friends of Six Senses, where Anna Bjurstam, who's our head of wellness, is just interviewing a really, really interesting one person for an hour. So we're out there. The response has been extraordinary. And you know, we never had this huge digital platform before. I mean, we have a pretty good website, but you know, we weren't all over the channels. So the response to us has just been incredible. And what people are telling us, which supports, I think, what some others have been saying in this chat, is the fact that it wasn't so slick and well produced has the response to that has been even more heartfelt, because you know, it came from a place of wanting to share what we know with our customers and with community, and reconnecting with community. And it just didn't seem to matter that the footage was quite raw, because the reaction was, at least it's coming from the heart. So you know, now that we're kind of in that space, in that zone, we are thinking about how do we keep doing this in perhaps a slightly different way to we did doing it at the beginning, as we all start to come out of this. You know, what content can we provide that is relevant? How can we connect it to perhaps our club concept that we're launching in New York early next year? I mean, there's just lots of directions. And to play to Francesco's point of new businesses that come out of this, you know, how can we continue to provide content in a meaningful way that makes sense without charging for it, but layering it into other aspects of our business that will enhance our core business. So this is the kind of stuff that we're thinking about. But I mean, as I say, we were shocked at the positive reactions to some of the content that we put out. So I'm delighted, and it kind of makes everyone feel good, you know, and it's good for business. It's good for the world. Why not? So
yeah, no, and I love the fact that, you know, you have Daniela from Brazil about media, and you have Neil in Singapore with Six Senses, and basically it's the same message. It's the same experience. You're saying the same thing, and we're all going through the same discovery and getting to the same place from completely different angles. And I think that's the beauty of these relationships and these conversations, to, you know, to emphasize that there is no doubt that's the way to go, because we're all hitting the same, you know, the same points from different angles. And I love this conversation. I could stay here forever, but I want to ask you all, before I open it up to Q&As, if everybody that was listening to us forgot everything we just talked about, and you wanted to leave them with one message, what would your takeaway be? And Daniela, I'll start with you.
The thing that I was just reading another question. You're coming to the point of what stays with us, what I want to say, the final message. I was thinking in one of the what will make the travelers or our consumers happy again. And then with the fashion experience, Diana Vreeland is one of fashion's most iconic persons. I'm sure you are all you have been impacted by her somehow. And to have this nice phrase that we are using over and over, the eye has to travel. I think that one of the questions is for Francesco, if it's going to be an elite thing or even international. I don't think so, because once your eye becomes once you get this experience or you're never gonna give up on that anymore. Our eyes have to travel. Maybe for a while it have to be local and national, but once we have the chance again, once you have experienced it, you will never give up, because that's what makes us happy. That will take you out of depression. That's what's gonna make you create, is that you have to get out of your shelf. You have to see the world. So the eye has to travel, I think, is the motto. That goes for fashion, that goes for the tourism industry, of course, but this need to be connected and to learn different, of course, national, and Brazil, it's so big. I think people, the eye has to travel inside Brazil, because most of us Brazilians don't know the whole country. I have never been to the Amazon. So the eye has to travel, it has to be local, but you cannot do the same holidays every time. So people would like to have new experiences, because I think that's something that motivates and make us go places. And together with this, the final thing that I was reading the other day, and I think she's one of the most amazing leaders, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, when she decided, for example, that they're going to have a 4-week work, a 4 days week, in order to boost internal tourism. It's not because it will make people happy, because it will move the economy. So it's something totally unorthodox, because you say, no, you have to, work to compensate all this time that we have lost. And then one of the countries that have managed the crisis with more wise, she just come with a total out of the box solution to the economic crisis. Just work 4 days a week and then travel. Just enjoy yourself. So I think those are the messages that will motivate us to go back, even with restrictions. But that's what moves us on the end of the day. So I think that the 4-day week, it's an amazing idea.
Yeah, very, very well put, for sure. Neil, tell us, what's your takeaway? What's your message?
Well, it doesn't have so much to do with work at all, but I think what I've experienced in the last couple of months, 2 or 3 months, is that people have become kinder. They've become kinder, and they've become more empathetic. And, we all know many, many people who are in worse positions than we are. And those people know people that are in worse positions than they are. And at the end of the day, many of us are very blessed, and how we interact with people around the world, and who we encounter every day, and who we don't know, perhaps. But just those interactions have softened in the past weeks. And for me, if there was anything I would be hopeful for that remained, it's that shift in human behavior towards other people that we come into contact with, and that in itself would be a really big deal.
No, I think
that's what I hope for.
Well, very well said, and I couldn't agree more. And I think this is an opportunity that we see so many people working, and this, just this panel, it's not about who you work with, or it's about your message. It's about, communicating and being together and sending positivity out there. And I think I do stand with you that I hope that it survives the crisis. Stacy.
Well, I just want to take this opportunity to say that out of crisis, my son, who's traveled, his whole life with us and graduated college 4 years ago and has been working in the hospitality business and hotels, got laid off in April. And because he had time on his hands, he started to help D&I with our consulting company, and really showed a very strategic side because of his business analytics, and also helping me with some financial outlook and forecasts. And he actually joined our company on Monday. So 3rd generation into the Fischer family. So I wanted to just say, out of sometimes unfortunate situations, there's that silver lining, like the topic of this conversation. And I think 2 things. One, Neil, I live in Manhattan, and my husband and I went down to the Village last Saturday, and walking on the street, masks, gloves, there was a bar open, and we got a margarita, and we sat down on a bench across from these complete strangers, And through our mask, we're drinking and we're cheersing and we're talking. Everybody on the corner started collaborating and talking to one another about how nice it felt, how normal we felt to be out, having a cocktail with complete strangers. So you're so right. Everybody is much kinder, even in New York City.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's something.
Yeah, I think for me, it's gratitude. Just have health. My family, everyone, my Fischer family, to be healthy and well and to get through this and not to take life for granted. I think we all have had so much time to just sit and think about it and realize how precious life is and how I just can't wait to hug the people I love in my life again and be together in that special way.
For sure. Great story.
Beautiful.
I'm welcome. It's very cool that you have your son joining you. 3 generations is a legacy you're creating. It's fantastic. Francesco, tell us.
Well, it's after all your comments there, I definitely think that Tina told me to have a few answers and a few alternates because someone stole some of my words out of my mouth. So well said, all of you. You all kind of summed up what I was going to say. But in general, I think that we've all had incredible, difficult conversations, especially internally in the last few months with our staff. And not only am I extremely grateful and proud of the team that we put together, because like I said, by no means is today the company we have today, what I started 13 years ago, a one-man show. I have an incredible talent pool that I couldn't be prouder. And when I had those very difficult conversations in order to obviously take the measures to make sure that we weather the storm appropriately without letting anybody go, I was not surprised, but the resilience just showed through more than ever. And I'm extremely proud of the way that not only was I able to entrust them with the information that I shared with all the transparency to say, listen, this is a reality, we're good. However, we have to be responsible. We have to take the right decisions in order to be make sure that everybody stays on board and measure and without having clarity and all the uncertainty out there. You know, this is what it is. Let's do it together, and let's come out of this, you know, as best as we can, and we will, and we are. However, that's what I'm most proud of. And then at the end of the day, obviously reminding myself of the integrity, the passion, and the creativity that I've created, and now the team is creating together to put, and I think it speaks for all the other brands out there today, the ones on the panel particularly, and also all the other industry colleagues, that there's so much passion, so much creativity, and so much integrity in everything we do today that it's impossible to let that fall by the wayside. And we're here for the long run.
Fantastic. I thank you all for agreeing to stay on. I'm only going to ask one more question because it's great because this conversation, the people listening to us have agreed more than asked questions. Like, yeah, I agree with that. Yes, go Stacy. Yes, go Neil. You know, so which has been great. But there is a question from James with regards to how have you maintained the spirits of your staff? And you know, I think one of the things I've been speaking a lot with Cindy Novotny, who's an amazing leader as well, who was part of my training at Ritz-Carlton with Master Connections. She's brilliant. And one of the conversations I had with her was that it is the responsibility of every leader to be positive. And she was saying, you know, it's not a choice. It is our job to make sure that you motivate and so forth. And it's not an easy job because it kind of feels like you're swimming against the current at the moment. But do you have any tips for the audience of how to do that? Anybody?
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead, Neil. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Neil.
I mean, just certainly my experience through this. I mean, we all want to look after our people. Our people are what make our companies, and that goes without saying. And we all think we've got wonderful employees, and we all do. But to me, the most important piece of it has been to just to remain connected with them and to talk to them all the time, every day, you know, whether it's individually or mid-sized groups or larger groups. I mean, you know, we have people all over the world, right? And the leadership group at Six Senses, as I said earlier, are on the phone 10 times, 12 times, 15 times a day. And we're just talking to everybody, even if we've not got much to say. Just the point of you know, doing a WhatsApp call or doing a Zoom and seeing them and just how are you, how's the family, and what, I mean, basic connection, and remind people how appreciated they are. And certainly everyone has made huge sacrifice for all of us as leaders in our companies. People, you know, staying at home or earning less money. I mean, it's caused huge hardship. So if we can just remind them at every moment that they are part of a family and that we care, and that doesn't mean everything's going to be beautiful every single moment, but the fact that we're there and we're connected it just means everything.
Very well put. Yeah, I think that's.
And I think there's one the same things we do with our clients, we should do with our teams. So you have to connect with them. If you're in a Zoom call and the kid just passed by, don't ignore it. Just say hi. Even because most of conversations we are having with some teams are not easy conversations. So if you don't use this ability or this timing to connect in a more personal level, or just say, well, today I'm happy, or today, sometimes I have ended calls and saying, people, just give a break because we're going nowhere at that moment. So it's not something you have to understand when you have to push, or take the advantage when you see that the group is spiking. So also don't follow, even if you don't cover the whole agenda, sometimes there's no way of putting it, and connect more with people. So I know, for example, that one of my dear commercial teams, they are watching through YouTube, and it's her birthday today. So feliz aniversario, Esther. She bet you never do, because I'm very shy. People don't, you never do this. She dare me, you never do this.
Good for you.
That's something I think we have to be more human in this moment. And of course, vulnerability, you know, I have said more and more. I say what I say one day, it might change on the other, and that's how we're gonna have to deal with it. But I think I know all the kids from my team now, because at one moment or another, they will pop up on the screen, and they just feel so, instead of ignoring the kid that's over there, just say a hi, and they move to something else, but they feel so happy to be recognized by the boss of their parents. And then you just, you know, and you have to realize who you can push a bit more at that week, who is more sensitive, and just and then you just move different people. So if this team is a bit stuck, leave them some time and then go with the other one. So I think, you know, juggling with where you have the right energy coming, and then, you know, just making this energy recycle. It's a good
recycle. For sure. Francesco, I'm sure your son is right next to you in his pajamas or something, but
no,
give your family
he's having a sesh, okay, with his friends. So luckily I've got all my kids here. One's from two of them living in Lausanne studying hospitality school. One's here at the Four Seasons, so where you used to work. He's interning here at the Four Seasons. The hotel really? Never shut down. He's been interning here on Orchard Road for 6 months. And then I got my other daughter on online classes in Lausanne until midnight. So I've got a full house and very happy and making the best of it. No?
Fantastic. Well, I wanted to wrap it up, and thank you so much for agreeing to be with me on this talk, for sharing your stories, your energy, your look at the future, for making time in your mornings or in your evenings. But it means so much to me. I am so honored to have you all together on this panel, and I hope that we can all go celebrate in Colombia with Ricardo, because I can assure you, for those that don't know him, it will be the party of your life. So let's make that a date. And again, thank you. I send you guys a virtual hug in gratitude. Thank you. And hope to stay in touch.
Thank you, Tina.
Yeah.
Thanks, Neil, Stacy, Daniela, and everyone.
See you soon. Bye, everyone.
Daniela. Muito obrigada.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Kisses,
Stay
beijos.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, bye, Tina. Thank you, Anne.
Bye. My pleasure.
Thanks,
Thank
Tina.
you.